So when you go under contract on a house, you have an option when you submit your loan application to either lock a rate, which is going to secure that interest rate for a specific period of time, usually 30 or 45 days are the lock terms that you're going to see, or floating the interest rate and basically leaving it up to change with whatever the current market does. In my opinion, is that if you have some sort of inside information and you know specifically what interest rates are going to do in the future, if you have a strong opinion about that, you can kind of play the market to your advantage. If you're, absolutely convinced that rates are going to be going down, in the next 15 or 20 days at some point between when you execute your loan application and when you're supposed to close, you can always float that interest rate. What I see happening most of the time, I don't want to say most of the time, but a lot of the time, what I have seen happen in the past is people who are absolutely convinced that something is going to happen, that the interest rates are going to drop, and it's going to happen right in the middle of when they're completing their home purchase. So they float the interest rate. They get 3 weeks into the process. They're ready to close in 7 days, and the interest rates are actually a little bit higher than what they could have locked. Because while they might have been right about what's going to happen overall, it's very, very hard to time the market. So most of the time, what I recommend to do is to lock the interest rate that's available at the time of closing. However, it makes no difference to what I'm doing. I tend to stay out of the conversation of what I think rates are going to do, because if I start making predictions, there's a very good chance that I'll be wrong, because I don't have any sort of inside information, or additional insight about what the market is going to do, during a very short window of time. So most of the time I recommend locking an interest rate rather than floating, because then at least you know what you're going to get. You're protected against any sort of moves in the market. And if rates do happen to drop, my company has a float down program, which allows you to take advantage of current interest rates if the market does decline sharply between when you start and when you finish. So really, if you lock your interest rate, there's very little downside risk. If you lock a 6.75, and a week before closing, the interest rate that's available is a 5.75, you're going to be able to take advantage of that lower interest rate. If you don't lock your interest rate, and the interest rate is a 7.75, the market goes haywire, and rates spike up a week before you're supposed to close, you're not going to have the opportunity to get that 6.75 anymore. It's completely gone. You're stuck with whatever current market is. So I always recommend lock. If the market declines, take advantage of our float down program. You win either way.